Hi, Martin here. It is the morning of September 18th, and my wife and I are about to embark on a 7 to 9 day canoe trip, on a crown land trip actually, to the Island Lake and Barrens Conservation Reserve. We're parked here at Bennett's Bay, and this is a marina and boat launch, so the car is parked, the canoe is ready to go. It's a beautiful autumn week that's forecast ahead of us, and the colors are just starting to change in the trees, so we expect it's going to be beautiful. The Island Lake and Barrens Conservation Reserve is an area we've camped in many times before. It's a beautiful crownland area that you can visit, but we haven't been here in 10 years, so we are really looking forward to seeing what it looks like after 10 years of not coming back here. And we have camped on Island Lake and the surrounding lakes in that lake system many times. But this time we're doing something a little different. We're going to today push through to Island Lake. We're going to camp on Island Lake, and then tomorrow we're hoping to cross to the north side of Island Lake, portage into another lake, and then from there, maybe the following day, portage into an entire other lake system to the north that we have never explored. So we thought you'd want to see how we do this. We tend to pack rather light even on canoe trips, so this is everything that we're bringing. We have the canoe, 2 paddles, 2 PFDs, and 2 packs. Those 2 packs contain all our gear, our clothing, including autumn clothing, our shelter, our cooking kit, and all of our food. We packed for 9 days, so it's all there, that's all we need. Okay, we're ready to head off. The lake that we're on now is a very large front country cottagey lake called Wawash-Kesh. It's a little north of Highway 520. You take Wawash-Kesh Lake Road from Highway 520 all the way to Bennett's Bay, which is where we parked our car, which is where you saw us at the put in there. This is a really nice lake. It's big, it's got tons of bays, tons to explore, but in summer it's quite busy. Now here it is, you know, mid-September, so it's quiet now. Most of the cottagers are away except on weekends, so it's rather quiet now, but this is a beautiful lake to explore, but very busy with motorboats in the summer. Nice and placid now at this hour. We got an early start because being a larger lake, it can get pretty choppy, big waves. So if you are going to come along here and paddle across this lake, do try to get an early start to avoid the big chop that comes in the afternoon when the wind picks up. So the route to Island Lake from here is very simple, fairly straightforward. You paddle to the north, the very north end of Wawash-Kesh Lake Road, which is what we're doing, until you get to Farm Creek. There's a tiny little creek that meanders for kilometers and kilometers through a lot of open floodplain. And that takes you directly to Island Lake. There's a number of portages. There's 3 portages near the beginning, and then there's 1 at the very end, and in between there's about half dozen beaver dam liftovers. Or so there were the last time we were here a decade ago. There may be more, there may be fewer now. If you come in the spring, Farm Creek, which is a narrow little ribbon of water, is still quite navigable, even though the flow is in the oncoming direction. At this time of year, the concern is low water levels. So the flow will be negligible, but still should be deep enough for us to paddle all the way there without too much difficulty. So we've arrived on the north shore of Wawash-Kesh Lake. Arrived at the site of the first portage. Farm Creek is behind me, and right over here is the outflow of that. In the spring, that rocky area over there is completely submerged underwater. There's a huge torrent of water that comes out, but at this time of year, it's literally a trickle of water that's coming out there. And the portage is on the left side of that waterfall. None of the portages along this route are marked. There are no signs or anything like that. This is crown land. But this is a well-established route, so it's not difficult to find. If you can make your way to this using a map, which will indicate where Farm Creek is, you'll know that on the left of it is the portage. not sure how long this portage is. It's very short, but what I'll do is I'll just count paces, and then I'll let you know how long it is. All the portages this first day to get into Island Lake are short, probably all under 150 meters. The last one is the only long one. It's 400 meters, and they're all fairly flat. So that portage was 75 paces, which is about 150 strides or 150 steps. And it's kind of a frustrating portage, even though it's short. In fact, it's frustrating because you have to take everything out of the boat, carry the boat and the gear over here, put everything back into the boat, and now we're going to paddle along Farm Creek here, and we're probably going to paddle for 90 seconds, and then we come to another portage of about twice the length, and we got to do it all over again. So it's a bit annoying. But at least there's no current that we have to fight on the way upstream. I was not exaggerating at all when I said it was a 90-second paddle. Those rocks over there, that's where we just came from. So, time to start the next portage. When the boat is like this, sitting on the ground in front and floating in back, it's extremely tippy, so you have to crawl up the center line of the boat to get out. It's amazing to me how you can remember a portage, all the twists and turns, more than a decade later. Every bit of that trail was familiar. It's like an old friend. So, second portage is over with. That one was 110 paces. Very flat, flatter than the first one even, just going up a very gentle grade. And now we are really on Farm Creek proper. I'm not sure how much further it is to the next portage, the third portage, but it's a good distance. It's not as frustrating. You don't have to get in and out as soon. We've come to an unexpected obstacle. The creek narrows and it becomes rock-walled and rock-lined, as you see here. Now, we've always come here in higher water conditions in the spring and the summer, even in late summer. This is navigable. In fact, the worst we've ever had to do was get out of our boats, but leave the boat fully loaded and just line the boat up a little ribbon of water. But it's too low now to get through here. So we find ourselves with an unexpected portage. We're going to have to unload the boat and then carry the boat over and then reload it at the other end. Whenever you're moving along a rock garden or slippery rocks or angled rocks like this with a load on you, there's a few things you can do to mitigate the chance of an injury. The first thing is make sure you got good footwear with some ankle support, if possible. If you have a hat, wear it. If ever you take a fall, it'll offer you some abrasion protection. If you're wearing paddling gloves, or if you have paddling gloves, to prevent from getting blisters on a long paddle, wear them, because if ever you fall and you have to throw a hand out to catch yourself, you can prevent yourself from an abrasion, a puncture, or something like that. It can really break your fall. And the other thing is, wear your PFD if you can. Even if you have to carry a pack over top of your PFD, which is not particularly comfortable. But if you fall, this is like body armor. Covers your back and these parts. So whenever I'm picking my way through something like this, I wear as much protective gear as I have on me. We're ready to go. So this last portage of the short portages at the beginning of the trip is on the right of those waterfalls. Not much of a waterfall now. So that's the last of the short portages. That was 43 paces. So that's actually the shortest of the three actual portages. So much for my memory. I thought the first one was the shortest. But this is the shortest, and it's just over a little hill. This is a really nice spot to sit and have lunch. We don't really do lunch anymore, or snacks on our camping trips. But in the past when we did, this is always where we would stop, because we would have 3 portages or possibly a liftover behind us, and then a lot of paddling ahead of us. So this is where we would sit on these rocks, just relax, air out. It was open and breezy, so it was less buggy, and this is where we would sit and have our lunch. And this marks a change in the terrain. It gets a lot less rocky. All these rocky formations that you see here, that disappears. After this, it's just open floodplain. It's just a narrow river of water that winds its way through a nice, wide, grassy floodplain. So what you see behind me here is what we're going to be paddling through for quite a while yet, and the only obstacles until the very, very last portage near the very end will be a series of beaver dam liftovers.
And we're approaching the first liftover. The water's very low, so the beaver dam is pretty high. Should be fun.
Okay. So the way we do a beaver dam liftover, without taking everything out, is I stand on one side, my partner, in this case my wife, stands on that side, and we each do this. Bend our knees so we don't lift with our backs, and we just get 1, 2, 3, lift, and over and put it down. Then we move over and we go again, and we're just lifting from the heaviest part of the boat, and that's how we're going to move this over. Creek is a series of exaggerated S-curves and switchbacks, but there's really only one channel, so you can't get lost. But there is one area where you could mess up. We've just come from there, and if you were to turn right here, that's Crammadog Creek, and you would be leaving Farm Creek. So when you get to this juncture, make a hard hairpin left turn to stay on Farm Creek.
We're at beaver dam number 2.
Your carriage awaits.
Thank you. Here we are at beaver dam number 3.
So this is another beaver dam. This is obviously a very old one, completely overgrown with vegetation. It doesn't look much like a beaver dam, but from the other side you can see that it is. And we're able to just get the boat through this narrow opening here, do a tiny little lift over. So this is lift over number
4.
We are at liftover number 5. This is just a rocky shoal here where the channel shallows out, so there's no beaver dam. It's been hard going between the last beaver dam and here though. The channel widens, but there isn't any greater volume of water, so there's a correspondingly lower depth of water. And so we've been bottoming out all over the place here. We've had to pole along using our paddles as poles instead of actually paddling. And we are hoping that beyond this point, the channel seems to get a little narrower. It's just as choked with weeds, which grab the bottom of the boat. But hopefully, if there's more water there, our paddles will get more purchase and we will not be damaging our paddles and pulling along. It'll be a lot less strenuous. And we have a concern as well. We've been here in late August before, possibly early September, and the water levels were low. So low that we were pulling, but that was at the very, very end of Farm Creek, right before the portage into Island Lake. If the water level is this low here, and we're still some distance away, I'm a little afraid that we will not be able to make it. That the water level will get so low that we will not be able to do anything but drag the canoe. So at that point we'll be faced with a decision. Do we want to just make a bush camp somewhere else and head off in a different direction, or do we want to open up our packs, take out our sandals, take off our boots, roll up our pant legs, and haul the loaded canoe through a pile of mucky water? Not sure what we're going to do. We'll see how close we get. That'll help us make up our minds. So some of our concerns are coming to be realized. The water is in fact getting shallower and muckier and more weed choked. There's a huge bar of mud under here. You can't get the boat to paddle through. So I'm going to use a painter line here and haul the boat along. Hopefully that should do it without our weight in the boat. Perfect. Oops, still ground. Go this way. There, much deeper here. That's what painter lines are for. Well, I'm just going to put my painter line away because I think we're in luck. We've come to the last liftover. It's this rocky area. That big rock, horizontal rock over there, was where you used to lift over, and in higher water conditions you can actually pick your way through this in your boat without having to get out. But this is effectively going to be a portage for us. We're going to have to unload everything. But the nice thing is that according to the map, we are getting quite close to the very last portage that will take us into Island Lake. And since this is effectively like a beaver dam, it's left over, the water level is higher over there than it is here. And so I think we're done the struggling with shallow water and pulling through mud. Right. Now the pack. Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is we don't have enough water. So we either have to line the boat by wading in, or in this case I have a bit of shore to walk along, so I'm just going to line the boat upstream from the shore rather than take my boots off and walk in the water. The good news is, though, the portage is in sight. There's a snowmobile trail that cuts right across this, and they built a bridge. And I can see the little snowmobile bridge. So we're in business. We're going to make it. Well, we made it. In summer, this is all underwater. And the takeout is very close to that bridge that you can see over there. So we're just going to portage across this. We're going to cross the trail at the end of that bridge. We're going to keep going through some woods. There's a waterfall that passes under that bridge, and that's going to take us to Island Lake. I believe it's about 400 meters, but I'll count the paces just so I can be consistent with the other measures I've given. So we finished the last portage, portage number 4. By my count it is 310 paces. I'm not sure how long that actually is in meters. And one of the nice things about that portage is it's nice and flat. There's not a lot of ups and downs or anything like that. And it's a nice clear trail. It's just a foot trail, it's not wide, but it's nice and clear. There's no obstacles, no fallen logs, not a lot of rocks or anything like that to worry about. We are now on Island Lake, and we are heading for an island, which we have camped on many times. That's where we're going to make camp, spend the night, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. Oh, and we haven't seen a mosquito the whole time, and then we got here, and we got swarmed at the put-in to Island Lake. So hopefully, it's not going to be like that the whole time that we're here.
Because we have no bug shelter.
Because we have no bug shelter.
Because it's the middle of September.
And I insisted that we didn't need bugs.
And I'm going to kill them if there's a lot of bugs.
We have a backup plan if that happens. We are taking it easy on Blueberry Island. That's not what this island is called, but it's what we called it years ago because there's a pile of blueberry bushes on it. It's a small island. There's actually 2 established campsites on it. None of the campsites, the established campsites in the system, have signs, but they're not hard to find. You just look around and you'll say, hey, that looks kind of clear, or I see a fire ring or something like that. And one of the joys of Crown Island camping in a place like this, where there's established portage trails and established campsites, is you get to explore and look around and discover these places for yourself, but there isn't a ton of work. When we got here, the site was a little bit more heavily impacted than when we were here 10 years ago. There's more little trails and stuff. The tent pad over there, where we set up our tent, is effectively the same as when we were here 10 years ago. This area where we set up our tarp, this is sort of our living room, our living area, is a little bit bigger, a little bit more beaten down than it was, but not tremendously so. The last people who were here made a big mess in the fire pit that's over there. They also probably built that table, or someone built that table anyway. They brought in some lumber. There's a fly-in fishing camp established on this lake. In fact, I think there's a couple of them, and they stash fishing boats for their clientele that they fly in, and they or their clientele probably built that table because anglers like to have a flat surface so that they can fillet their catches and so forth. So there's a table here, and they made a mess of the fire pit. It's overdeveloped and there's some trash in it, but we'll take care of that. And they were kind enough, though, to leave us a nice supply of dry cut firewood, so thank you for that, whoever it was that did it. Another thing that's different about this site since we were here last is there's a thunderbox on it. I didn't have to make a cheek spreader latrine like I do in all my other Crown Land camping videos where I'm establishing a campsite. In this case, someone has built an actual thunderbox. There's a latrine there, a privy. So that's a little less work. So this is great. This is sort of really, really luxurious, easy camping like in a provincial park. There's an established campsite with a flat tent pad, an open area, a fire pit. There's a table. There's a latrine. This is easy living. Oh, and there's no bugs.